Hello, and welcome back to another video. This is the third episode of story in which Naruto and Shikamaru were the only survivors of the Fourth War. Kurama, seeing them fade, sent them back to the Jonan days to prevent the war. Make sure to click the like and subscribe buttons. Now let's begin. Do you have a decent strategy to take out Kiba this time? Shikamaru asked the blonde as they walked towards the prelim arena. It's a pretty basic one that won't show any of my actual skill, but it is much more dignified than last time. Naruto shuddered in remembrance and Shikamaru snickered at his expression. You're healed enough to take out Kin, right? It still twinges a bit, but I can take her out easy enough, and since Tosan knows how long we have been training, I can use a more advanced jutsus from my clan. Shikamaru poked his shoulder gingerly. Naruto nodded as they joined their teams and senseis on the platform surrounding a tiled fighting arena. He scanned the remaining Shinons and somehow the rest of Kabuto's team had made it and were allowed to fight in the prelims. He tuned out the Sandaime's speech about how they had to have prelim fights and if anyone wanted to drop out they can, as the fights are one-on-one fights from here on out. He watched as a few people dropped out before the senseis took their teams aside for pep talks. Good luck team, I will hope for your success unless you are fighting each other, then I am not taking sides. Don't die out there. Kakashi told Team 7 with an eye smile. Sakura paled at the last remark while Sasuke-ed. Rousing as usual Kashi-sensei. Naruto smirked and ducked the flick that was coming towards his head from the Jounin. The nickname brought back memories for Kakashi, memories of Minato, Kushina, Ren, and Abichio. He quickly shook his head to clear his mind as Hayate stepped up with a cough to start the first fight as the names flashed up on the screen above him. Sasuke Uchiha vs Yoroi Hakoda. Good luck Sasuke-kun, Sakura gushed and Naruto leaned on the railing as Sasuke passed behind him to head down to fight. Don't screw up team. Naruto sang in an answer to the cocky smirk the other preteen had on his face. Like how would Dobi? Sasuke shot back before he went to join Yoroi Hakoda to start the fight. Naruto and Shikamaru watched the fight with slight interest, just wanting to gauge where Sasuke's level was at without the curse seal interfering. Hakoda told Sasuke that he could steal Churka and Naruto stayed silent this time around. He wanted to see how the Uchiha would get out of this without the curse seal or stealing Lee's Daijutsu's move. In the end Sasuke sent Shuriken at Hakoda as a distraction before he got in close with a low-rank Kaden Jutsu and some Taijutsu moves he had learned from his training with Kakashi. He sent Hakoda into the wall behind him and it knocked him unconscious, making the Uchiha the winner. Sasuke smirked at the other Shinons as he made his way back to his team. Top that Dobi, Sasuke said in triumph to the blonde. It won't be that hard. Naruto thought to himself. I'll do my best. He replied with a sarcastic bite. But the Uchiha didn't catch it, however, from the amused look Kakashi gave him. The older man did. Next was the fight featuring Zaku, who had use of both arms, but had one in a sling for show. Zaku was going against Shino like before and Naruto watched the fight disinterested, as he knew how it was going to end. Just as before, Shino won when he infected the wind tunnels in Zaku's arms. Disturbing but effective, a glance at Shikamaru told the blonde that the Nara was on the same wavelength. The next match was Kankuro vs Misumi Tsurugi. Watching Kankuro wield his puppets once more felt good to watch. The blonde didn't even wince when the puppet master used one of his puppets to crush Misumi's bones. He had seen a lot worse in the war. Misumi should be glad it was only broken bones. The next one was Sakura vs Ino. This time around they both ended up cutting their long hair off and Naruto saw a flicker of his timeline, Sakura and the young pink-haired girl fighting below. Naruto smiled and spotted Shikamaru smiling fondly at the blonde as it ended in a draw like before. Tenten jumped down to face Temari and Shikamaru leaned on the railing like he was using it to hold himself up, but he knew that he was watching Temari closely to see if his version of her was still in there and rememorizing her movements so he would have something to go off of during the final round. Shikamaru still couldn't help but wince at the brutal way she took out Tenten. He knew the two had become good friends during the war when Tenten inquired about Temari's giant iron fan. The next matchup was Shikamaru Nara vs Kintsuchi. Shikamaru sighed loudly as he shoved his hands in his pockets and headed down to the arena as Kin walked down in her snakeskin patterned scarf with a devious smirk on her lips. Shikamaru looked up to see Gaara give him a stiff nod and Naruto beam at him. He also took note the Sandaime, Asuma-sensei and the others who were in the room during their debriefing were watching him closely. Kick her ass Shikamaru. Ino called down, pumping her fist in the air. He raised his uninjured hand lazily. This is going to be troublesome. Shikamaru groaned and he heard Naruto snort from the stands. Begin. Hayate coughed and stepped back out of the way as Kin pulled out a two-fistful of senbon. I heard you killed Kabuto. Kin commented as she threw her first fist of plain senbon. Who? Shikamaru dodged out of the way lazily. Don't play dumb with me. You took off his head. She screeched as she threw her other senbon out of anger. Sorry, I've never beheaded anyone before. Shikamaru ducked down to avoid the senbon attack. No matter, the guy was creepy as hell. I did hear you sustained some rather grievous injuries out there. She smirked as she disappeared in a substitution, a pile of senbon lying where she stood. Shikamaru whirled around as she appeared behind him, stabbing a senbon into his shoulder. He grunted at the new pain and hazily heard shouts coming from the stands. He took the attack and made a hand seal. Cage Kubashibari, Shadow Strangle. Shikamaru grunted and a black shadow extended from his feet. It swirled around her body and landed on her neck, tightening its hold, and she started to choke for air. From the vantage points around the room, no one could see the shadow that was strangling her. They just saw the two genin locked in a close position with Kin breathing deeply. Give up or you die, he whispered to her, eyes hard and tone flat. She looked at him with wide eyes and nodded the best she could. He pulled back the jutsu just enough for her to talk. I yield. She rasped out and Hayate nodded, accepting her surrender. Shikamaru released his jutsu and stepped out of her range. Your eyes. You're a killer. She muttered as she nursed her throat. Shikamaru just stared at her and pawed at the ground once with his foot before turning to head back to his team. There was a gasp from the gathered leaf ninja and a few watch out as Kin threw poison-laced senbon at his unguarded back. Shikamaru whirled around, arms going up in an X to block his face and chest. There was no need to guard himself as the leaf ninja present had taken their own action. Asuma was standing in front of his student with his trench knives out to protect Shikamaru, having used them to knock the poisoned senbon to the ground. Kakashi along with Guy had latched onto Kin's arms. Kurenai had a kunai pressed against Kin's stomach. You yielded and yet you attack him from behind. Kakashi growled. Shikamaru looked at the gathered jounin shocked. A subtle glance up in the stands showed him that Sand was silently returning to Gaara's gourd, arms still crossed, and Naruto was putting his hands back into his pockets as he stopped making hand seals. He nodded at the two and thanks before he turned back to the scene before him. Genma was escorting Kin out of the arena and Shikamaru let out a breath of relief. This had not happened during the previous timeline. Are you alright, Shikamaru? Asuma asked as he fell into step with his student as they headed back up to the other leaf teams. I'm fine, thanks for the save, sensei. Shikamaru smiled at his sensei, who returned the smile before Shikamaru's friends surrounded him. I'm fine, don't worry you guys. Shikamaru calmed down the genin around him. I'm fine. Even if the senbon had hit me, I wouldn't have been too badly injured and the medical nin would be able to heal the poison before it could affect me. Oh yeah? What if it hit you in the neck or the head? Ino stomped up to him, anger all over her face, but Shikamaru could see the worry hidden in her blue orbs. Ino. Ino. He reached out and grabbed her waving hand and pressed it over his heart so she could feel it still beating, and right away all the anger disappeared from her body as she felt the steady thrum under her fingers. He had done this a lot during the war for Ino, Choji, Temari, Naruto, and he knew it soothed their frazzled nerves. I'm alive, focus on that, Shikamaru said softly. She nodded mutely and removed her hand from his chest as a medical ninja came to check on his wounds. She tisked as she removed the senbon from his already injured shoulder and started to heal it with her green churka. What was she talking about before? About you beheading someone? Choji asked quietly. Shikamaru noted he had all the jounin sensei's attentions. I honestly have no idea. She must have said it to throw me off balance. Shikamaru lied. She knew about your wounds through. Ino added. It's not like it was secret. Naruto and I were in the infirmary when we got into the tower. That or she must have seen my bandages. Shikamaru waved his wrist to show the stark white bandage wrapped around it and a matching one sticking out from under his gray jacket. That makes sense. Choji nodded, accepting the explanations. Shikamaru felt horrible for telling them these lies, but he couldn't let them know the truth, not yet. The next fight pairing appeared on the huge screen. Naruto Uzumaki vs Kiba Inuzuka. Naruto walked past Team 10 and made eye contact with Shikamaru, who nodded, silently telling the blonde he was fine and to focus on the fight with Kiba. Hinata stammered out a good luck to the blonde as he passed and almost passed out when Naruto gave her a soft smile in return. Man, this is going to be a breeze, Kiba said excitedly as Shino and Hinata quietly wished him luck. Don't underestimate him, Kiba. Kurenai warned, having been there to hear the story of how Naruto and Shikamaru had fought off the snake Sannin. Come on Nakamaru, let's go win this. Kiba gave his sensei a confused look before he followed Naruto down to the fighting arena with his wide Nikken at his heels. Good luck, Kiba. Naruto grinned at the Inuzuka. He knew that every eye from the Leaf Village that was present during the debriefing was trained on him, and he knew he had to be smart about this fight, but not show any impressive skills. "You too, Naruto," Kiba said in good sportsmanship. "Begin." Hayate raised his hand. "Jujin Bunshine, beast human clone," Kiba shouted, as he and Shikamaru took on the same human appearance, if not a bit more feral than usual. Naruto just stood there as the two ran and leapt around him in an effort to distract him. Thanks to Kurama being sealed in his body, Naruto had tamed his heightened senses and could already tell which one was Shikamaru and which one was Kiba. He quickly made a hand sign and a dozen cage bunshines appeared and rushed at the two Kibas, fighting them off while Naruto disappeared into the floor. Moments passed as the cage bunshines disappeared one by one until none were left. The two Kibas stood side by side as they looked/sniffed around trying to find Naruto. They let out yells of surprise as they sank under the ground up to their necks as Naruto leapt out of the ground a few feet away. Doton, Shinju Zanshu, double suicide decapitation. Naruto grinned. The Kibas growled but one side as the other started to wiggle around with no results. "I yield," one shouted and Hayate accepted it, announcing Naruto the winner. The blonde grinned and made a hand sign and the two Kibas were released from the jutsu and the Kiba on the right turned back into Shikamaru, who leapt up onto Kiba's head. "Good fight, Kiba. I just know that you'll become one of the strongest Inuzukas out there. Yours and Shikamaru's teamwork is very unique and effective," Naruto commented to the Genin. "Thanks, man. I guess I shouldn't have underestimated you. We'll get stronger and we'll beat you one day, right Shikamaru?" Kiba shook Naruto's hand and Shikamaru yipped in agreement. "I'll be looking forward to it, Kiba, Shikamaru." Naruto shook Kiba's hand and petted Shikamaru as the two headed back up to their teams as the names for the next battle showed up. Hinata Hyuga vs Neji Hyuga. "I was dreading this one," Shikamaru confided to Naruto, who came to stand with him instead of his team, Choji and Ino moving to accept the blonde to the area where Team 10 was standing. "Me as well. Too bad we can't pump my Churka into Neji and make him our Neji," Naruto commented in a very low voice as the two headed down to fight. "I believe in you, Hinata. Never give up," Naruto shouted down at the blue-haired girl, who blinked and looked up at the blonde shyly. Neji just and he stood stiffly, glaring at Hinata with so much hate that she visibly flinched back. "This is going to be painful to watch," Shikamaru grumbled as he tightened his grip on the railing in front of him as the fight began and Neji ruthlessly attacked his cousin while verbally tearing her down. Once he disrupted the Churka flow to her arms, Naruto was ready to leap in to stop Neji from killing her as he rushed forward for the final strike, but Shikamaru's hand latched onto his elbow. "I wanted to go down there too, but we can't blow our cover. We aren't supposed to know this is going to happen, remember the Jounins interfere," Shikamaru hissed and Naruto locked eyes with his Anbu commander before slowly nodding and relaxing, knowing he was right. They watched tense as Hinata refused to give up even as she stared death down in the form of her cousin, but Hayate and the other Jounin senseis leapt in and stopped Neji and protecting her just like when Shikamaru was attacked by Kin. Naruto kept an eye on Hinata as she was taken out of the arena on a stretcher and Neji rejoined his team, who eyed him with shock and some disgust. "I'll bring our Neji back during our battle," Naruto swore to Shikamaru as the second-to-last match came up. "Rock Lee vs Gaara. This should be a good fight," Shikamaru commented as Lee dropped down into the fighting area as Gaara used his sand to lower him down. "Show off. I don't think I've ever seen him walk normally," Shikamaru muttered to Naruto, who snorted, and Gaara sent the two a look like he knew what they were saying. Naruto just smiled cheekily at the Kazekage before Hayate began the final fight. Gaara crossed his arms and let his sand defend him as Lee attacked with his taijutsu moves. Gaara kept his eyes on Lee and frowned as he saw Guy give Lee permission to open the gates. Gaara lashed out with a fist and the sand wrapped around the Genin, stopping him from opening the gates and kept him in a ball of sand, not too much pressure as he didn't want to be the reason Lee had all his limbs broken again. Time went by and Hayate had no choice but to announce Gaara the winner, and the Kazekage released the green-clad Genin and walked over to him. "Good match, Rock Lee," he said, his tone flat like usual. "You are a most youthful opponent, Gaara-san. I look forward to fighting against you in the future." Lee bowed to the redhead, who nodded back, suppressing a smile. "Me as well." Gaara turned on his heel and strode up to his siblings, smirking at Naruto and Shikamaru, who sent him their own smirks in return before they turned to Lee to offer their own encouragements. "I'm glad you didn't use the gates, Lee," Guy said after he came back over from talking with the standby medical ninja. "If you did, then who knows the damage it could have caused if you used it against his sand." "I understand, Guy-sensei," Lee snapped off a salute. "I will train harder than before to make my body strong enough to use the gates and to make you proud, Guy-sensei." "Lee." "Guy-sensei." The two did their dramatic rainbow and waterfall hug and Naruto rubbed his neck. "I forgot they did that," he commented, and Tenten snorted. "They do it every day at the start and end of training." She rubbed her forehead annoyed. "Ouch." Shikamaru winced in sympathy and she nodded in agreement to his statement. The final matchup appeared on the giant screen. Dosuke Inuta vs Choji Akimichi. "I don't like the looks of this guy. If he's anything like that Zaku guy, I'm not sure I want to fight him." Choji turned to his team worried. "His headband shows he's from the sound. He must use some sort of sound vibration, so be careful." Shikamaru theorized. "More reason not to fight him." Choji waved his arms. "If you go and give it your best, then I'll treat you to dinner." Asuma offered and Choji straightened up, suddenly full of energy as he walked down to the arena. "Bribery, nice." Kakashi commented to the other jounin. "It works well with Choji. Usually for Shikamaru it's cloud watching or Shogi and Dino I have to come help deliver flowers for her family shop or carry her bags while she shops." Asuma admitted to the silver-haired jounin. "I should try that." Kakashi muttered, glancing at his team. Sakura was still resting against a wall and Sasuke was leaning on the same wall a few feet down from her, not looking at her even once. Naruto was standing with Shikamaru and Dino, looking worried for Choji, but shouting encouragements anyway. Shikamaru knew that even with his warning Dosu would win against Choji. He just really hoped Choji wasn't injured too badly. This timeline's Choji didn't see Dosu in action before, but much to Shikamaru's relief the match went the same way it did in his timeline. Choji gave a good effort, but Dosu used his sound waves to disrupt the water in Choji's body and ended the fight. Thus was the end of the prelims and the second part of the Chunin exam. The winner stood in front of the Sun Daime as the names for the next part of the exam appeared. Naruto Uzumaki vs Neji Hyuga. Sasuke Uchiha vs Karashino Aburami vs Kankuro Shikamaru Nara vs Tamari Dosu vs Undetermined. Dosu looked up into the stands at his sensei, who Naruto and Shikamaru had an idea that it was actually Orochimaru in disguise. The sound ninja raised his hand in the Hokage. "Yes?" He looked at the sound ninja. "I withdraw," he stated, and the Hokage nodded, accepting it. "Then the matches are set and will take place in 2 weeks. Good luck to you all and good job in getting this far," Sun Daime said, a clear dismissal. The team's senseis grabbed onto the Shinans who couldn't teleport and shushined out of the tower in the Forest of Death. All the Konoha teams appeared where they had all gathered before the 5 days, and many families and friends were waiting for the returning Shinans. Yoshino and Shikaku swept up Naruto and Shikamaru into tight worried hugs when they were spotted. "We're proud of you too." Shikaku smiled at the two, his eyes taking in Shikamaru's injuries. "Thanks Tosan," they said in sync. "You have a month to train, you are coming home and you are staying there until I say you two are recovered, understood?" Yoshino said sternly. "Yes ma'am." The two gulped as Yoshino shot her husband a glare, and the elder Nara quickly touched his wife's shoulder, and in a swirl of leaves the group disappeared, leaving 2 very amused jounins and 1 smirking Kazekage in their wake. The upside of being stuck in the Nara compound for 2 days was that the two managed to plan a lot things out in detail, including what Naruto was going to do when Jiraiya arrived. "Are you going to be alright when Jiraiya shows up?" Shikamaru asked Naruto as the two played an intense game of shogi in Shikamaru's room. "If I can manage seeing everyone else, I think I'll be able to manage Uro-Senin." Naruto smiled fondly at the thought of seeing his godfather alive once again. "Try not to show him that you know more than he does about the Rasengan?" Shikamaru reminded his Hokage, glancing up from the game. "I'll also try my best to look unimpressed when I summon a tadpole." Naruto deadpanned and Shikamaru rolled his eyes. "Knowing you, you would accidentally summon the Night Days in Gamma, 2 great sage toads," Shikamaru joked, but fell sober when Naruto nodded at the very real possibility. "I'm thinking of letting Uro-Senin and Gigi know that I know who my Tosan is." Naruto made a move against the Nara. "Might as well, it would set you up to learn the Rasengan, and I know you want to learn more about him and your Kasan, so this is an amazing chance to do so," Shikamaru agreed, and Naruto smiled happily. "I'm sure Tosan will have heard about our performance in the exam so far and will be tracking you down for a game soon to try to get a read on us again," Naruto said cautiously. "Looking forward to it." Shikamaru smirked. "What are you going to do, Shika?" Naruto snickered at the glint the Nara had in his eyes. "Throw him off our trail, but hint at what is to come," Shikamaru said innocently as he beat Naruto. The blonde fell backwards with a groan. "So Tosan has no clue what is going to hit him?" Naruto stated from his place on the floor. "Are you going to the forest while I'm with Gigi and Uro-Senin?" "If I can avoid Tosan long enough, yeah, I think it would be better to do so," I'm also going to set up the trap for when I run into that bastard Hidan again. Shikamaru's face turned dark. I'm not letting Asuma die this time around. That's why we are here. No one is dying on our watch, Naruto said seriously as he rocked back up into a sitting position, his legs crossed. Hi, Shikamaru said out of reflex as Naruto's voice had changed to his cage tone. Baki should be overheard talking about the invasion with a Naruto ninja tomorrow, so today we can focus on other things today, because things are going to get real tomorrow, Shikamaru murmured as he reset the shogi board and the two fell silent, just in time as Shikaku knocked on the door with a Nanbu in tow. Naruto-san, Hokage-sama wishes you to come to the tower with me. The Anbu ordered and Naruto gave a stiff nod as he stood up. I will be there soon, I need to get changed so you are dismissed. Naruto ordered back as he passed by Shikaku and the Anbu, who blinked at the tone of voice, but disappeared in a swirl of leaves nonetheless. Shikaku raised an eyebrow at his son. The young Naruto just gestured to the shogi board. I was informed of what happened in the Forest of Death in the prelim fights, Shikaku said causally as the two started their game. Oh? Shikamaru made a move. Both of you took on a Sannin on your own and came out alive. Shikamaru could hear the pride, worry and confusion laced in his father's voice. Basically. Shikamaru nodded. I also heard you almost died because the sword that stabbed you in the shoulder turned into a snake and poisoned you. Shikaku went on to say slowly. Almost. Good thing Nar is a fast runner, Shikamaru said absently, hand-rubbing his newest shoulder wound. I know there is something that you are not telling me, Shika-chan, Shikaku stated as he crossed his arms in his large sleeves. What is your theory, Tosan? Shikamaru tilted his head to the side, resting his chin on his left hand. It's incomplete as of yet, Shikaku said easily. Let me know when it is complete. Shikamaru nodded and was about to make another amateur move when his father gripped Shikamaru's wrist. Shikamaru's body tensed and eyes darted up to look at his father. Shikaku dropped his son's wrist in shock at the danger, wariness, sadness and age that he could pick out in Shikamaru's eyes. He took a breath to compose himself before he placed his hand back into his sleeve. You are not playing to your full potential, Shika-chan. We both know the move you are about to make is amateur at best and will cost you the game, Shikaku said calmly. Let me know when your theory is complete. Shikamaru repeated as he changed his move, knowing that in one more move from any angle he would win. The young Nara stood up, bowed his head to his father before he left his room. Shikaku stared at the board and realized that his son had outplayed him completely, all while protecting the king absolutely. What happened to you, Shikamaru? Shikaku muttered to himself as he cleared off the board. Naruto leapt roof to roof easily as he made his way to Hokage Tower. His heart was pounding hard in his chest. He was going to see Uro-sennin again. This time he was being properly introduced and he wouldn't have to force the Sannin to train him. He would have his godfather back, and the blonde Uzumaki Namikaze couldn't wait as he unconsciously picked up his speed. Naruto easily scaled the tower by putting his churka into his feet, and he slid open the window in the Hokage's office, making sure to flare his churka so he wouldn't be attacked. I do have a door for a reason, Naruto-kun, Hiruzen said fondly, blinking at the lack of bright orange. Why would I use the door when I could enter through the window? Naruto tilted his head confused as he landed on the floor of the office and dusted off the black pants he stole from Shikamaru. What's so important you had to interrupt my day off, Gigi? I was planning on beating Shika in the next game. Naruto asked, trying his best not to sound excited as he had come up with a new strategy. Naruto-kun, I want you meet someone. The Sandaime smiled as the door opened and in the flesh, alive and white-haired as ever, walked Jiraiya. Naruto had to use all his training and willpower not to rush over to his godfather and hug him tightly before kicking ass all the way to Suna. He kept his face curious as the two gave the other a once-over. This is my former student Jiraiya, the Toad Sannin. The Sandaime smiled. Jiraiya? Wait a second. You're the one who writes those pervy books that Kakashi-sensei reads all the time, Naruto shouted, pointing a finger dramatically at the white-haired Sannin. You're a Uro-sennin. Jiraiya's eyebrow twitched as Hiruzen snickered at the name and Naruto just smirked. Why did you want me to meet Uro-sennin? Naruto asked, the third acting confused. Jiraiya is a seal master and I called him to make sure your seal containing the QB is intact. The Sandaime laced his fingers together. A seal master? Naruto looked wide-eyed at Jiraiya. That's right, brat. Jiraiya puffed out his chest in pride. I'm one of the best in the world and have taught the others, like the one who placed that seal on your stomach. You taught the Yondaime? Naruto asked, eyes wide in fake excitement. Do you think I look like him? I think I look like him. Naruto was very amused at the confused look that crossed Jiraiya's eyes and the shifting from the Sandaime. Don't let him see the seal. Remember, physical changes like scars, tattoos and seals came back with you, Kurama hissed inside Naruto's head. Ah, I remember now, thanks for the reminder. How is your family reunion going? Naruto mentally nodded. Don't even start, I've got a massive headache and here I thought you were annoying. Kurama whined. I'm not looking so bad, am I now, eh Fuzzy? Naruto mentally laughed before he turned his attention back to his godfather. Tell you what, kid, why don't you let me check your seal and we'll talk? Jiraiya offered after Naruto crossed his arms and gave the white-haired man an unimpressed look. I don't think so, Uro-senin. Like how I'm taking off my shirt for you. Naruto refused. Can't you feel my churka or something like that? Fine, you little brat, flare your churka for me. Can you do that? Jiraiya asked with an annoyed look on his face that Naruto had seen many times. Yes, I can do that, Uro-senin. Naruto snarked and he flared his churka. It rose up to a high level and covered the whole room. Naruto smirked a bit as he spotted the hidden Anbu shift slightly at the increase of churka. Naruto's smirk increased a bit as he recognized the churka as Denzo/Yamato Teiko. Good to know he was out of Root and Orochimaru's clutches. Naruto, your churka is unlike any I've ever come across, Jiraiya said, his voice low and full of awe. However, I do not sense any remaining churka that is leaking from the seal. I would have to say the seal is intact and doing fine. Cool, so what are we going to talk about? Naruto bounced on his heels, pulling back in his churka. Before that, Naruto-kun, I have something I need to tell you about Jiraiya. Hiruzen cut in and the white-haired Sannin nodded. What is it? Naruto asked, feigning confusion. Naruto, I'm your godfather. Jiraiya deadpanned. Naruto forced himself to freeze and glance at the third for confirmation and Hiruzen nodded. Huh? Naruto said slowly before he flew across the room and punched Jiraiya across the face, all his anger at his version of Jiraiya for going off on his own and dying and not for telling him that he was his godfather was released with that punch. You left me alone, Naruto hissed, his words having a double meaning, however only he knew the second meaning. I know. You don't know how much I regret letting the elders talk me into leaving the village. I should have stayed, I should have taken you with me, I should have done something. Jiraiya sat on the ground where he fell from the force of the punch. That strength you've got there is impressive. Have you been training under Tsunade? Jiraiya gently rubbed his cheek as he stood up. Who? Naruto feigned confusion yet again. You didn't tell me Tsunade left as well. Jiraiya froze up before he rounded on his old sensei. If I had known that, I would have come back right away. I thought Naruto was being cared for by her, after all she is his last remaining family member. I have a family member? Naruto tilted his head to the side. This was kind of new information. Yes, he called her Bachan, but he had no idea if they were related or not. Yes, you do. I'm truly sorry, Naruto. Jiraiya let his head drop. Will you explain this to me? Naruto questioned. After the exams are over, we will find her and she can explain herself to both of us. Jiraiya swore and Naruto nodded his head before he was flying across the room and he threw his arms tightly around his godfather's middle and buried his head in Jiraiya's chest. Naruto shakily inhaled his familiar scent as Jiraiya wrapped his arms around his godson tightly. I'm here now, Naruto. I'll tell you everything I can and I'll be here to help you from now on. Jiraiya swore as he stroked the blonde hair. I'm holding you to that, no matter what. If you need to leave for a mission or anything, at least come say goodbye. Naruto ordered, his voice wavering. Jiraiya picked up on the emotions behind those words and nodded his head in a promise. Good. Now let's go for some ramen and you can tell me about my Tosan and how he was before he became the Yondaime Hokage. Naruto grinned cheekily as he leapt up to the windowsill. He laughed at the shocked looks on Jiraiya and the Sandaime's faces. Meet you at Ichiraku's. Naruto waved his hand before he dropped out of sight and made his way to Ichiraku's, cackling the whole way. Hey there, Naruto. It's been a while. Tucci greeted his favorite customer with a large grin and quickly started making a bowl of Naruto's favorite ramen. Hiya Tucci Gigi. Sorry, I've been really busy with the Chunin exams and everything. Naruto rubbed his head sheepishly as he sensed Jiraiya approaching the restaurant. What the hell was that, Naruto? Jiraiya questioned. Naruto turned his head as he slurped a large amount of ramen. Jiraiya stared at the blonde, flashing back to how Kushina used to eat ramen just like that in this exact spot with Minato by her side. What the hell was Wataru-senin? Naruto asked innocently as he finished his bowl and Tucci set down another one, interested in why Jiraiya of the Sannin was talking with his favorite customer. You can't just drop a bombshell like that on us and then jump out a window. Jiraiya huffed as he slid onto a stool by the blonde, ordering his own bowl. It's not that big of a deal, I mean, you have to be pretty stupid not to see the resemblance. And then I did some research with Shikamaru's, and since she caused Nara, it was easy to come to the correct conclusion, Naruto said seriously as he started on his second bowl of ramen. Huh? You're full of surprises, aren't you, kid? Jiraiya pondered over the words as the two ate. You have no idea, Naruto said cheerfully as the two ate their amazing ramen while Tucci looked on with a small smile as he remembered Jiraiya taking another blonde to his stand for ramen after training. It looks like history was repeating itself. Come on, kid, time for that talk I promised you, Jiraiya said as the two paid for their ramen, his heart swelling at the sight of the green frog wallet the blonde had used to pay before regret hit him hard for not being able to give to him in person. Sweet. Naruto grinned. He knew this was going to be a repeat of some information, but this time around it felt different. The blonde walked beside his godfather, ignoring all the glares and whispers. However, Jiraiya did not do so. He felt his fists clenched together tighter at every word or glare sent in his godson's direction. The duo arrived in the same training ground they used the last time, but the circumstances were very different, and for that Naruto was thankful. He was really hoping he wouldn't be chucked off a cliff this time around. I wouldn't mind seeing that again, Kurama chuckled lowly in Naruto's mind. Remember, Fuzzy, that if I go, you go with me. Naruto shot back and the Kyuubi huffed before falling silent as Jiraiya turned to look down at the blonde. First off, those glares people had on when we walked by, how long? Jiraiya didn't want to finish the sentence. Ever since I was born, but I've grown used to it and I simply don't care anymore, Naruto said honestly. It is not right, they have no idea. Jiraiya gritted his teeth. You're right, they have no idea, and it better to keep it that way for their own safety, Naruto insisted, and Jiraiya shook his head. That is something your Tosan would have said, Jiraiya stated fondly with a smile on his lips. Speaking of, how did you know who your Tosan is? I have the smartest Nara in the Genius clan for a best friend, figure it out, Naruto said cheekily. I want to know about Tosan as a person and his skills. I can tell you all about him, kiddo, I promise, but don't you have to train for something important? Jiraiya ruffled the blonde's spiky hair. Oh right. I have to fight Neji Hyuga. Naruto wrinkled his nose. He really rather not fight one of his best friends, but this version of Neji needed a swift kick in the ass and to be shaken out of his destiny shape of mind. It will be extremely troublesome, but looks like I have to outlogic him. You sound like a Nara, let me give you something before you start training for the fight, Jiraiya chuckled before he pulled the giant scroll off his back and rolled it out in front of the two. This is a summoning contract, Naruto. It is a contract for toads and I want you to sign your name. It makes sense that you are the next one to make a contract with them after all. Naruto fell to his knees and stared at the scroll, praying that his name wasn't there, and thankfully it was not. He smiled softly as he easily traced his father's name before he pulled out a kunai and swiftly sliced his skin open. Right here, under my Tosan's name? Naruto asked, voice shaky as he stared at Minato's name. That's right. Jiraiya blinked at how easily Naruto had sliced open his hand. He watched as Naruto signed his name in blood and stared at the name as it sunk into the contract. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. It is my name after all. Naruto smirked, noticing the Sannin was staring as his hand healed up thanks to Kurama. Alright then. Do you know how summonings work? Jiraiya asked, tearing his eyes away from the scroll. I cut my thumb, make the correct hand seals and slam my hand on a surface while saying Kushios no Jutsu, summoning jutsu, right? Naruto rocked on his heels. Right, why don't you give it a shot? Don't be too disappointed if you can only summon a tadpole at first. Jiraiya prepared the blonde so he was not disappointed or frustrated. Here I go, Orosenin. Kushios no Jutsu, summoning jutsu. Naruto made the needed hand seals, bit his thumb with practiced ease and slammed his right hand onto the ground as seals spread out from his palm and a huge puff of smoke appeared. Jiraiya watched in shock and awe as the smoke cleared. Gamabunta, one of the chief toads, appeared and Naruto was sitting cross-legged on the toad's head. You would summon Gamabunta on the first try, Naruto, Jiraiya said amazed. Brat, get off my head, Gamabunta said, his tone rough, but the undertone was one of fondness. Why? I can see everything from up here. How did I do, Orosenin? Naruto waved his arms down at his godfather. Jiraiya, I'll be damned. Good to see ya. Gamabunta grunted, a smile appearing behind his pipe. Naruto, you just summoned one of the chief toads on your first try, Jiraiya shouted up to the blonde. Nice to meet you, Chief Toad sir. Naruto smiled knowingly at Gamabunta, who grunted in response. So you're Namikaze's offspring, huh? Tell you what, brat, if you can survive the rest of my day on my head, I'll accept ya. Gamabunta told the blonde. The silent for old time's sake was heard between the two. When I do it, you better call me boss, Naruto laughed loudly before he adjusted his position so he could cling to Gamabunta. That'll be the day, see you at sundown Jiraiya. Gamabunta puffed his pipe before he leapt up into the air, Naruto whooping in excitement as he and the toad disappeared, leaving Jiraiya standing alone, below. So you mind explaining what is going on, brat? Gamabunta questioned the blonde who was easily sitting on his head as the giant toad leapt around the outlying forest, not to frighten the people in the village. Naruto sighed and told the toad chief the whole story. That makes sense, some of our kin that died in the war suddenly came back to life. We knew you had something to do with it. Anything weird that happens is always related back to you. Gamabunta shook his head in a fond manner before he spotted the sun setting and Naruto still on his head. We better get you back to Jiraiya before he comes tearing up the place looking for you. Try to keep him alive this time, yeah? I plan on doing my best. Naruto promised solemnly. Did you know I can't harness my Sage mode while I'm 12? It's a real buzzkill. Mention it to Jiraiya, will ya, so when I hit 16 I'll have a good excuse to be able to use it. Will do. Gamabunta grunted as he landed in the training ground where Jiraiya was resting under a large tree. Brat managed to stay on my head all day. I think he has the making for another Sage. When he's old enough he'll be reverse summoned to start training. Gamabunta admitted to the white-haired Sannin. Really? Jiraiya's eyebrows rose up as he craned his head backwards to look at Naruto, who had curled up on the toad's head and was breathing evenly as he fell asleep. Really? Now make sure the brat gets home safe and stay close to your Hokage tomorrow. I have a feeling something is going to happen and you'll be needed. Gamabunta ordered and waited as Jiraiya leapt up onto his head as well and gently slipped his arms around the sleeping blonde before dropping back to the ground. Thank you, Gamabunta, tell the others I say hello. I planned on staying to see Naruto's fight anyways. Jiraiya inclined his head and the toad chief nodded before he disappeared in a puff of smoke. You're not one, Naruto, but looking at who your family is you fit right in, Jiraiya said, fondness creeping into his tone as he headed back towards the village and the place he was staying whilst in the leave. And done. Shikamaru stepped back and smiled happily at the finished result of his heat-on trap. It was exactly the same one that trapped him in the future, but he was hoping he would get to the immortal man before he could come across Asuma. That was easier the second time around. Shikamaru brushed off his pants as he petted a deer that had been watching over him whilst he worked. Want to come to the shrine with me? Shikamaru asked the deer. The animal tossed its head before walking off in the direction of the abandoned shrine belonging to the His clan, long forgotten until now. He and the deer strolled deeper into the forest than the rest of the clan had ever ventured, not even his Tosan. He spotted the small, wooden, ancient shrine that was overgrown with weeds, flowers and vines. Thanks for the company. Shikamaru fed the deer a carrot from his pocket and watched as the deer disappeared into the dense forest. Shikamaru gingerly walked up the broken old stairs and he walked into the main area of the shrine with purpose. He knew what he was doing this time around, causing him to head straight for the hiding spot that took a while to find last time. He put some effort into it for once and pushed open the lid of the dust-coated wooden box that held the item he was looking for. Prefect. Shikamaru blew the dust off the summoning contract scroll. I hope they remember me. It would be troublesome if I had to go through all that proving myself stuff again. He unrolled the scroll across the ground by his feet and glanced over the names of the ancient Nars who had signed the scroll before he had, while noticing his name was not there. Pulling out a kunai, Shikamaru sliced his palm open and quickly signed his name on the next blank space. He rolled up the scroll before he put it back in its proper place, knowing it would be safe there, and headed back out of the shrine. Here goes nothing. Kushios no Jutsu, summoning jutsu. Shikamaru slammed his palm against the grass and watched as black seals spread out and a column of smoke appeared a few feet in front of him. Shikamaru Nara, it has been a long time since I've seen you. A female voice called out cheerfully as the smoke cleared, showing a 10-foot-tall white-tailed doe curled up on its side wearing a tight-fitting white robe smiled down at the small Junon. Did you shrink since the last time we met? Hello Kosetsu Snowfall, it is nice to see you too. Actually I haven't shrunk, try going back in time. Shikamaru smiled up at the chief female of the Shedo Shikai Ichizoku, Shade Deer Clan, that the Naras had a summoning contract with, but over time and the lack of wars it had been buried away. Ah, that makes loads more sense than you having shrunk. Kosetsu laughed. She was always a cheerful one, but if you were an enemy then you would be haunted by her laugh afterwards. My darling Shiro, white, suddenly reappeared, so we theorized that you and your blonde Hokage had something to do with that. Good conclusion Kosetsu. Shikamaru smiled. I wish to hold the contract in this timeline as well. I don't have to prove my worth again, do I? Shikamaru asked, dreading the answer as the doe inspected him. Nah, not this time. Once was enough if you ask me. Kosetsu smiled before she dropped her head onto her hoofs and blinked at him. Shikamaru smiled at the familiar sight and sat beside her nose and stroked her fur. She made a noise of approval. Thank you, it would be beyond troublesome. Shikamaru admitted. Agreed. Now before I give you back what belongs to your clan I want to take a nap. Kosetsu yawned. Not for too long, okay? I don't want my Tosan coming to look for me and find you here. Shikamaru told the giant battle doe. Ah, keeping us a secret are we? It's like an affair. Kosetsu laughed before she lifted a front leg and a small ball of darkness appeared and floated down to Shikamaru's feet. The darkness receded and laying in its wake was a beautifully crafted katana, looking like it was made out of shadows itself. Kage no Ichi, Shadow's Edge, Shikamaru sighed out happily as he picked up the familiar katana and drew the blade swiftly. If you looked hard enough, you could see the obsidian blade moving as if it was made out of shadows. Shikamaru smiled as he made a few swings and he fell back into his kenjutsu stance, and with Kosetsu watching him happily he practiced his stances and getting his Jonan body used to the weight of the katana. Looking good Tsukoshi Shika, little dear. Kosetsu commented as Shikamaru finished his practice and slid the katana back into its pitch black sheath. With a sigh he pulled out an empty scroll and sealed the beautiful katana into it before placing it back in his pack. I should let you get back to Shiro. Shikamaru smirked at the battle doe that blew out air from her nose as the sun had lowered down past the treetops, throwing shadows everywhere as if in a dance. I suppose so. I will see you soon, Tsukoshi Shika. Kosetsu inclined her head. Shikamaru smiled before the giant doe disappeared in another puff of smoke. Shikamaru took a few calming breaths before he headed out of the forest and back towards his family's compound. He had a feeling that Naruto wasn't coming back tonight. He should tell his parents that so they did not have to worry. No, the worrying will come tomorrow with the Chunin exam's final round. Let the invasion begin. Shikamaru muttered to himself, fingering the scroll that had his katana sealed into. Today is the day that will determine our fate, Shika, Naruto said somberly as the two perched on top of the Hokage monument in the early morning of the day of the final rounds of the Chunin exams. Gaara sent a message. Baki was overheard and the Sun Daime has been informed, alerting all Anbu, Jounin and Chunins. Is it time for the next step in our plan? Hi. Shikamaru nodded. We need to take out the Sound Four quickly and discreetly. They should be posing as bodyguards for the fake Namikaze Kage, aka the Snake Team. Alright, Akito, it's time to put our plan into action. Naruto stood up and the duo made a hand sign. Their permanent bunshines appeared in their places as the real versions of Naruto and Shikamaru hatched into Akira and Akito Kazama. Ready, Akito? Akira attached Raijin to his hip while Akito slung Kage no Ichi across his back and double-checked his trench knives. Ready, Akira, I am taking Tuya and Jirobo out if you don't have any quarrels with that. Akito flexed his fingers. I'll take out Kidomaru, Sakon/Ukon and Kimimaro if he shows up then. Akira nodded his agreement before the two took off. Akira following their churka, having a sensor type on your side was a bonus sometimes. They are not all together and the Snake Team is nowhere near them, so stealth attacks from here on out. Naruto reported before signing the coordinates of where Tuya and Jirobo were located. Akito nodded once before he splintered off to complete his part of the mission. Akito hit his churka and landed on a branch silently overlooking a waterfall and a small clearing where Tuya was polishing her damned flute. Kage Nui, shadow stitching. Shikamaru muttered as he watched as his shadows traveled up behind the redhead and lashed her limbs into place, flute far from her mouth. What the fuck is this bullshit? Who's out there? Come out here and face me, you bastard, Tuya shouted out in anger. Kage Kubashibari, shadow strangle. Akito smirked and watched from his branch as the black shadow formed a hand and tightened around her neck. He focused a bit more as she gasped for air and with a clench of his jaw, her neck snapped in half and she hung limply in the shadow's grasps. Kaden, Gokaku no Jutsu, Fire Style, Fireball Jutsu. Shikamaru watched pleased as Tuya's body burned away to ashes and scattered across the water before they flowed down the waterfall. Now we're even, you bitch. Akito growled as he headed towards his next target. Akira smirked as he spotted Kidomaru stretching out his 6 arms. He had to make sure not to get in close as from what Neji told him, this one was easily a Jounin level taijutsu user. Akira silently made 5 more clones of himself including Raijin, and from behind Kidomaru the Akiras stuck. In one swift and silent motion the Akira sliced off all 6 arms. One hand from one of the clones was covering Kidomaru's mouth to silence his screams. 2 of them sliced off his legs at the knees and the real Akira grimaced, but he slid the blade through Kidomaru's neck and jumped back as it hit the ground with a thud beside his detached limbs. Kaden, Gokaku no Jutsu, Fire Style, Fireball Jutsu. Akira waved a hand and the clones shot 5 small fireballs at the limbs of Kitamaru and watched pleased as they burned up easily. He flicked his finger and a silent futon jutsu sent the ashes flying up into the sky and they scattered. Akira let his clones disappear and he headed towards Sakon/Ukon swiftly as the wind itself. Akito watched as Jirobo munched on a bag of chips, eerily remind the redhead of Choji. He shook off that thought. This bastard had almost killed Choji and for that he would die in a more personal style than he killed Tuya. But he had to stay away as this ninja could absorb churka and he used his size and strength to his advantage. Kage Mei no Jutsu, Shadow Possession Jutsu. Akito intoned and watched as his shadow caught Jirobo's. The Outonin growled when he found he couldn't move as Akito dropped out of his hiding place and the two walked towards each other. Akito drawing Kage no Ichi while Jirobo copied the movement but his hand closed around nothing but air. "Who are you?" Jirobo growled angrily as he eyed the katana. "Your executioner," Akito said in a flat tone. With a flick of his wrist, Jirobo's head was separated from his neck in a spray of red blood. Akito released his jutsu and fired a small ball of fire at the 2 remaining pieces of the ninja and smirked as the ashes disappeared in the breeze. "That was for Choji." Akito growled before he disappeared back into the shadows of the trees. He had to meet Akira at the rendezvous point to finish off phase 1 of their invasion plan. Akira looked down at Sakon/Ukon as the 2 brothers bickered. He could not sense Kimimaro's churka anywhere in the leaf. If what he heard from Leongara was correct, he must have left to get treatment from Kabuto but died from his sickness nonetheless before he could actually kill the 2. So if he waited long enough, the sickness would kill him and no fighting would be needed. Akira gently laid his palms on the ground before him and kept his indigo eyes trained on the brothers in front of him. "Doten Kekai, Doro Domu Earth-style barrier, Earth Dome Prison," Akira whispered, using Jirobo's jutsu against his own teammate. Akira watched as the brothers were trapped within the prison and the redhead made a small opening at the top of the dome. "Kaden, Gokaku no Jutsu, Fire Style, Fireball Jutsu," Akira intoned as he hovered on the wind using his wind affinity and his churka control. He shot the fireball down into the opening and didn't flinch as he heard the muffled screams of the brothers burning. He kept the stream of fire up until he was completely sure the 2 were dead and burned to ashes. He dropped both his jutsus and watched as the wind whisked away the remainders of Sakon/Ukon. Akira took off towards the rendezvous point where he knew Akito was waiting for him. So. Was that easier the second time around or was it just me? Akito asked as Akira dropped down next to him. "No, it was much easier," Akira agreed. "Now to finish this part of the plan, we then should swap places with our bunshines and get to the exams before I have to fight Neji." "Right." Akito nodded in understanding. The 2 made a hand sign and watched as permanent bunshines of the Sound 4 appeared beside them. "Prefect. Go and carry out the plan." Akira ordered and the bunshines nodded and the 4 took off to fulfill their roles. "Ready to head out?" Akito questioned and the other redhead nodded and the 2 flew out into the village in 2 red blurs. Thus began the rumors of the 2 mysterious red blurs that would grow into something more before the day was through. Akira and Akito watched as Naruto and Shikamaru made their way to the arena with Shikaku and Yoshino. The 2 had to wait until the 4 separated before they leapt down and with no one around swapped places. Naruto worked out a kink in his neck as Shikamaru tightened his standard ponytail as they approached the box housing all the fighting Shinans and their Jounin senseis. "About time." Genma the protector for the final round called as the 2 walked in, trying to hide their smug smiles. "We didn't think you would show. Please, we wouldn't miss this for anything." Naruto smirked, eyes flickering to Neji who was glaring hatefully at him. "Even if it's troublesome," Shikamaru sighed while Tamari huffed at the comment. "Chin up Shika. When the day is done I'll let you sleep all you want." Naruto whacked the Nara on the back enthusiastically while the black-haired Jinan grumbled under his breath. "I better get to." Shikamaru grumbled knowing that he and Naruto were going to need a week to recover from everything that was going to happen today. "Are you ready Shikamaru?" Asuma questioned his Jinan curiously. "As I'll ever be Asuma-sensei," Shikamaru said truthfully as the 2 moved away from the others in the room so he let his voice shake a bit. He was in fact scared of what was to come and he hoped nothing major had changed thanks to the ripples he and Naruto had made during the prelims. He noticed Sasuke was there on time, so the bonus was that he wouldn't have to fight and be exhausted when the time came. "I'll be cheering for you Shikamaru." Asuma smiled, placing his hand on his student's head fondly and Shikamaru smiled shyly up at him, feeling a piece of his heart slowly returning to him. He had lost it when Asuma had died by the hands of Hidan. But seeing him here and being in his presence was repairing that hole. Perhaps he could convince Naruto that Akito needed to take Hidan out sooner than before. He had to make sure Asuma was safe from that psycho. Thanks sensei. So Naru-chan, how did your training with Jiraiya-sama go? Kakashi asked the blonde quietly. It was great. He even had me sign the same contract as Mito-san. Naruto beamed and was glad to see the eye smile Kakashi was giving him. That great Naru-chan, I'm sorry I couldn't train you or even come see you. Yoshino-san is very violent when she has charges in her care. Kakashi shuddered and Naruto had to fight down a blush. It's okay Kashi-sensei, I understand why you had to train Sasuke, I really do, and I agree. Kasan is terrifying and any man with some sort of brain wouldn't go against her rule. Naruto shuddered the mere idea of fighting against Yoshino. Kasan? Kakashi asked confused and Naruto's cheeks heated up more. Yoshino-san. She and Shikaku-san asked me to call them Kasan and Tosan if I felt comfortable doing so. I'm not saying it out of disrespect for my real Kasan and Tosan as I love them both so much, it just feels nice to have someone to call that, Naruto whispered and Kakashi nodded in understanding. I understand Naru-chan, I know that your parents wouldn't mind you doing so. They were good friends with Yoshino-san and Shikaku-san. Naru-chan, I want you to do your best out there and know that I'm cheering for you. Kakashi smiled as he pulled out his book. Naruto rolled his eyes at the book. Thanks Kakashi-sensei. Naruto beamed. Do you know where Jiraiya-sensei is? Ah, I believe he is acting as the Hokage's bodyguard. Kakashi scratched his eye and Naruto glanced at the box housing the cages and there was the Sannin, standing between the Kazekage and the Sandaime. He was giving the Kazekage a suspicious look every so often. The Sandaime stood up and cleared his throat as the arena fell silent. The Hokage gave his opening remarks and welcomed everyone to Konoha. Naruto tuned out the speech, having heard it before and not too keen on hearing it again. He turned his attention to Gaara who was staring at the box where Orochimaru was posing as the Yondaime Kazekage having killed the real one. Gaara was gripping the fabric of his sleeves tightly as he glared. First matchup. Neji Hyuga of Konoha vs Naruto Uzumaki of Konoha. Genma called out and Neji walked out into the arena. Go on then. Shikamaru made a shooing motion at the blonde who rolled his eyes before standing up on the railing. I've got to make an entrance Shika, you know me. Naruto smirked before he threw himself off the railing. He tucked into a ball and spun a bit before he landed on the ground gracefully and waved cheerfully up at the crowd. Neji growled lowly at the sight as the blonde stopped a few feet away from him with Genma in between the two. Alright you two, you know the rules, Genma said around his senbone. Ready? The two nodded in response. Then. Begin. Genma backed up as Neji sank into his clan's stance while Naruto stood there simply. Neji growled and rushed forwards and in a blur of movement the two started their dance. Neji lashing out with his clan's Jutenpo, gentle fist, and Naruto just dodged out of the way thus angering the Hyuga even more. Naruto had subconsciously tuned out all the words about destiny and fate the Hyuga had been spewing for the whole battle as he had heard it all before and had no desire to hear it all again. It was painful to see one of his best friends back as his old hate-filled self again and Naruto decided it was time to out-logic and anger him. Sorry, I didn't catch a word of that. Naruto wiggled his pinky in his ear as he leapt back from another attack. He could see the steam coming off of Neji's face as the Hyuga growled like an animal and sank into a familiar stance. You dare, take this. Hakiraku Chuion Sho Gentle Fist Art, 8 trigrams 64 bombs. Neji used the attack that only main branch members were allowed to learn. Naruto stood his ground and let all the blows hit him dead on before falling to the ground. This battle is finished and your destiny to lose to me is complete, Neji sneered but Naruto just smiled around the blood trickling out of his mouth before the blonde disappeared in a puff of smoke showing he was a cage bunshine. What? Neji scanned the arena for the blonde while the ground shook around him, but before he could react Naruto burst out of the ground like last time and sent a churka-infused punch right into Neji's jaw. The force sent the Hyuga flying into the air, he landed with a grunt and Naruto sent a spray of kunai at the Hyuga, pinning his clothes to the surface of the arena before he squatted next to the Hyuga so only Neji could hear his words. I believe we can make our own destiny Neji and I know you believe that as well. After all aren't main branch members the only one allowed to know 8 trigrams 64 palms? That is your own way of breaking the destiny you think you are tied to for not being born into the main branch. If destiny were set in stone, I would never have survived the night I was born or any day after that. Yet here I am, you think you are the only one with a horrible seal placed on you, think again. I have one of the most powerful and most psychotic monsters out there sealed within me, I have to fight every moment of every day to keep it at bay. Okay, the most psychotic part may have been a stretch nowadays, but not in the past. Naruto felt Kurama mentally puff out his chest when called most powerful. I'm still here, aren't I? I make my own destiny, Neji, and you are well on your way to make your own. Don't let your hatred of the past cloud your future. You have to accept it, try your best to understand it, and then you have to work for a brighter tomorrow. What do you say, Neji? Do you want to work together for a brighter future? Naruto finished his speech to the Jonin, who was now looking up at Naruto wide-eyed. Naruto Uzumaki. You are something else. Neji swallowed and averted his eyes. I can't just let go of my hatred as easily as you can. It will take time, trust me, I know. Nothing was easy about letting it go for me, Naruto said soothingly. Start with finding out the truth of what happened to your father. Neji's head whipped around at those words. When the time comes, things will change in your clan, I can promise you that, and I just know you will be at the head of these changes. So, what do you say, Neji? Will you help me change the future? Naruto asked, holding out his hand to the Hyuga, his words having a double meaning to them. I say. I'm looking forward to it, Neji said slowly. Naruto grinned happily as he removed the kunais pinning him and hauled the Hyuga up. Proctor, I forfeit. Neji's voice rang out and the stand erupted in cheers and shouts. Winner Naruto Uzumaki of Konoha. Genma raised his hand closet to Naruto, who smiled softly at Neji. When this is all over, we should have a spar. Your Jukenpo is amazing and I can't wait to fight against it in a friendly fight. Naruto suggested and earned a small smile from Neji. I would like that, Naruto. Thank you. Neji shook Naruto's hand. Ah, it was nothing. Naruto blushed as the two left the arena. Neji swallowed when he saw Hiyashi waiting for him. Naruto patted the Hyuga's shoulder before walking past the head of the Hyuga clan with a heavy glare set in his face, and he made sure Hiyashi could see it. __. So how was that for outsmarting him? Naruto asked Shikamaru when he entered the box. Worthy of Inara. Shikamaru commented while Kakashi patted Naruto's head in his version of praise. What did you say to him anyways? No one could hear a word of it. Kakashi asked the blonde. It's a secret. Naruto smiled cheekily, gaining a fond eye roll from the Jounin before the blonde went to stand by Shikamaru and Gaara, who were standing beside each other at the railing. The 5-minute signal just went off. Gaara muttered to the two. Good luck, Gaara, try not to kill Sasuke, will you? Naruto whispered as Sasuke headed down towards the arena. No promises. Gaara growled. I like his way of thinking. Can't we kill the little whelp? Kurama questioned. We can't kill this Sasuke for something our Sasuke did. If we can swing this right, he will make a fine Onbuteko for Konoha. Naruto reminded the fox that just grumbled annoyed but settled in to watch what was going to happen next. Next match. Gaara Sabaku of Suna vs Sasuke Uchiha of Konoha. Genma announced the next match, and the redhead using his sand entered the arena across from the Uchiha. Ready. Begin. Genma backed off and Sasuke went on the attack. Gaara was forced to play defense as he used his sand to block every attack the Uchiha made. 5. 4. 3. 2. 1. White feathers fell around the stadium. So it begins. Naruto muttered as he and Shikamaru quietly released the genjutsu before falling to the ground asleep like the others around them minus Kankuro and Temari. Asuma and Kakashi quickly dispelled the genjutsu around them and checked on the sleeping Jonin still in the box. Temari and Kankuro had leapt out to join their little brother the moment the feathers fell. They are okay, Asuma, we need to go. They will be safe here. Kakashi looking up from his place by Naruto. Asuma nodded and touched Shikamaru's forehead briefly before the two Jounins disappeared from the box. Naruto opened his eyes and sat up next to Shikamaru. After making sure Shino was still out, the two created their bunshines and left them sleeping in the room and hedged themselves into Akira and Akito. Akira woke up Naruto and Shikamaru while Akito woke Shino. Who are you? Naruto demanded as he leapt to his feet next to Shikamaru and Shino, all three falling into defensive stances. We are allies. There is an invasion by Oto happening. Suna was supposed to be in on it, but thanks to Sabaku no Gaara they are now on Konoha's side. As Chunin hopefuls, you three must help keep the civilians safe alongside the other ninjas in the village. Can you do this? Akira looked each Jonin in their eyes, making sure to use his caged tone of voice. Hi. The three agreed. Good, make Konoha proud. Akito jerked his head to chaos that was happening in the stadium. The three nodded and leapt out of the box. They started to gather the other Jonins and then they started to cart civilians off to safe locations. Looks like Orochimaru is being unmasked by Gaara. Akira pointed at the sand ripping apart the Kazekage disguise to show Orochimaru below. You killed my father and tricked Suna into siding with Oto. From here on out Suna will aid the Leaf. Gaara's voice boomed and a column of sand flew up into the sky as a signal to all Suna ninjas. He was never this dramatic before he met you. Akito commented as the two moved in red blurs around the stadium and the streets of the village, taking out good chunks of enemy ninjas. Thanks. Akira grinned, taking it as a compliment, and he kept an eye on the Sandaime and Orochimaru. Oh crap. Akira cursed as the two landed on the roof of the stadium overlooking a good chunk of the village. What? Akito glanced at his twin. Orochimaru created two bunshines and they are heading towards Naruto and Shikamaru. He can really hold a grudge. Akira reported as the bunshines leapt at Naruto and Shikamaru. Shikamaru cried out as one of the bunshines grabbed him by the back of his head and had his head yanked back harshly and fangs moved towards his jugular. Naruto had tried to run towards Shikamaru to help the Nara, but the bunshine tackled him down, pinning the blonde Genon down, moving towards the blonde's exposed neck like he was going to place a curse mark on the Genon. What should we do? Akira swallowed hard as he looked towards the bunshines and then at where the Sound 4 were raising the Shishi engine, 4 violet flames formation, to trap the Sandaime, leaving Jiraiya outside the barrier with the Anbu squad. Look. Akito pointed down at where Naruto and Shikamaru were pinned down and both sighed a breath of relief when Guy and Lee did a dynamic entrance, giving both bunshines strong kicks in the head, making them disappear, leaving the two Genons unharmed thankfully. Thank God for Guy and Lee. Akira let out a relieved breath of air as Shikamaru and Naruto joined the other Genon teams and spread out to help protect the village. I think it's time to destroy the rest of Orochimaru's plan. Akito smirked and Akira cast his silent futon, Furigu Ringu, wind style, free flying, and the two rose up into the air and in blurs of red the two approached the barrier. Hovering over the giant wall, the two made a release hand sign and watched with smug looks on their faces as one by one the Sound 4 puffed away, Orochimaru spinning around to see each one disappearing and his face showed his rage as the barrier fell. Right away Jiraiya and the Anbu flanked the Sandaime. You know Orochimaru, you should really make sure the key ninja in your clan aren't bunshines before you start to invade villages. Akira commented as he and Akito dropped down from the sky between the two groups, adopting their stances and standing protectively between Orochimaru and the leaf ninja behind them. Who are you? Orochimaru hissed with his tongue flicking out and Akira wrinkled his nose up in disgust. Allies of Konoha, Akito stated simply. Now either surrender or be destroyed. I will never surrender to you. Orochimaru growled and started to preform hand signs using a mismatched arm that Akito had to guess he had no choice but to use as a last-minute replacement as Akira had chopped off his other one in the forest. Akito moved quickly and with accuracy he swung his katana and Orochimaru howled in pain as his severed arms fell to the roof below his feet. What have you done? Orochimaru shrieked as Akito leapt back to stand beside Akira. Stopping you from using any jutsus, Akito stated and watched pleased as the severed arms were covered in shadows and soon nothing was left behind. Sandaime Hokage, this is your village and we will abide by your word on what to do with this traitor. But please know that if allowed to live this snake will cause more pain and death for many innocent people. Akira stood to the side, looking at the Sandaime out of respect. I do not know who you two are, but I do know that by banishing him the first time I have brought this invasion upon the village and who knows how many more deaths. The Sandaime sounded weary with age and burden. Destroy him. Hi Hokage-sama. The group nodded. Orochimaru hissed, his long tongue flicking out and a flash of red was shown before said tongue dropped to the roof and rolled down the slope. I hate that disgusting tongue. Akira shouldered the hilt of his hedged Raijin as not to arise suspicion of why he had it instead of Naruto. Akito pulled out one of his trench knives and tossed it at the ground in front of Orochimaru, who went to lunge forward. The snake Sanin hissed distortedly as he found he could not move any of his remaining limbs. Slice all his limbs into pieces, then seal them into separate scrolls and burn them after the battle is finished. Akito assigned to the Anbu team, the stance and presence of power the redhead gave off made them not question his orders as they leapt into action. Jiraiya stayed back guarding his old sensei, his face uncertain. We will handle this with the Anbu team, there is no need for you get involved. Akira nodded his head slightly at Jiraiya, knowing that the man was battling his feelings about his old teammate. Thank you. Jiraiya trailed off as the Anbu team and Akito lashed and slashed Orochimaru into pieces, each piece being sealed in a different scroll. Akito's binding through the trench knife working to its full potential. My name is Akira Kazama and that is my twin brother Akito. We will explain everything once the invasion is won, for now my brother and I will patrol the village and make sure things are going well. Akira forcing himself to kneel in front of the Hokage. Normally he wouldn't have done so, but he respected Gigi and he had to keep up the act. Thank you Akira Kazama. The Hokage nodded and Akira stood back up before he joined his brother's side, and together with their katanas the two sliced right down the middle of Orochimaru's face before the two left the rest of the ceiling in the Anbu's capable hands. About damn time that snake got what was coming to him. Kurama cackled inside Akira's head. Agreed, that felt really good. Akira cackled alongside the nine tails. Akira and Akito leapt off the roof in red blurs and perched on their place from before overlooking the village. I sense Shikaku-san, Inoiki-san and Chozo-san are fighting another wave of auto ninja at the gates to the village. Akira reported. I will aid them before moving on to find Iruka-sensei and the academy children to make sure they are safe, Akito said, and Akira nodded once and Akito ran off in a red blur. I'll help out some of the cute little Genin then. Akira leapt off towards the largest grouping of Konoha Genin Shirka to see them surrounded by some Jounin-level auto ninja. It was Team Guy, 8 and 7. Each Genin was sporting their own injury of a sort, and seeing the blood coming from his friends boiled Akira's own. Let's show them true power, Kurama hissed. Let's show them what a fox can do. Akira grinned viciously before growling like a fox when he spotted Lee being grabbed tightly by his throat. In a blur of red, Akira moved in with his katana pulled out, and after infusing it with some churka, Akira attacked. Lee suddenly was dropped onto the ground. Tenten grabbed the back of his suit and dragged him back away from the red blur that was darting between the group of enemy nins. What is going on? Kiba questioned as he adjusted his grip on Akunai Shikamaru, growling slightly by his feet. Shino and Hinata did not have an answer for him. Whoever he is strong and is using a katana. Tenten observed the flash of steel was seen every so often. Neji had his Byakugan activated and he steadied himself after looking at the red blur intently. This person has the strangest flow of churka I have ever seen, and there is a ton of it. Neji reported. After the talk with his uncle, he had gone to his team and made peace with them and swore to be a better team member, and they had welcomed him back happily and youthfully. HN. Sasuke growled as Sakura shifted beside him, eyes trained on the blur. So cool. Naruto breathed, letting his cage bunshines disappear. The last auto ninja in sight dropped to the ground dead, and the red blur came to a stop, revealing a 6 feet 1 inch man with crimson hair tied in a braid with jaw-length bangs, his indigo eyes dark as he wiped blood off his katana as his red cloak settled around him. Are you all alright? The voice was deep, but it had a caring tone to it and it sounded like the wind. We think so. Thank you. Sakura spoke up, as the others seemed to be busy staring at him. For some reason she got a good feeling around this man, like she knew he wouldn't hurt them. My pleasure, you all have done well today. It is not an easy situation to be thrown into, but you did well. Akira looked at each of them. Sasuke was the only one who looked away annoyed. The invading force should be soon destroyed along with its leader. For now focus on keeping people safe and watch each other's backs in case of a sneak attack. Akira ordered and they all nodded, taking his words seriously. Hey, I didn't catch your name last time. Naruto stepped forward and Akira ruffled his blonde hair, feeling odd doing so. Good to see you again, Kit. My name is Akira Kazama and my twin brother Akito is out there as well, so if you see someone else with my face, but with different clothes and a ponytail, he is an ally. Akira informed them before casting a silent futon, Furigu Ringu, wind style, free flying, and he hovered up in the air before he waved at them and flew off in a red blur. So cool. Naruto repeated, and this time he had some agreeing with him. I've never seen him in the village before. I hope we get to see him again and maybe train with him, Kiba said in awe, and they all couldn't help but agree with the idea. Akito speed towards where he could now see the older generation of Ino Shikacho fighting off a large amount of auto ninjas on their own. Akito narrowed his eyes and drew his katana and leapt into action. He sliced down an enemy who was sneaking up behind Shikaku. The Nara head whirled around to see Akito yanking his katana out of the ninja, and the body was eaten away by darkness. Akito and Shikaku's eyes locked. Akito inclined his head slightly before he leapt of the roof and slashed his way through the rest of the auto ninja, helping out the older Ino Shikacho every so often. When the last enemy fell, the trio glanced up at Akito, who was standing up on a higher roof, the wind billowing his cloak and ponytail out behind him as he sheathed his katana on his back. Who are you? Inoiki questioned, still in a battle stance. An ally of Konoha. My name is Akito Kazama. All will be explained later, but for now I would suggest you three go check on how the academy students are doing. This was the last wave of auto ninjas. The front gate is secure. Akito informed the trio before he leapt towards some familiar churka, leaving the older Ino Shikacho group behind him. Akito moved from roof to roof before pausing on the edge of the Hokage Tower, where spotted Team 10 and the Sand siblings fighting together against one of the last and largest groups of auto ninja. Akito drew his katana once more and dropped down and punched one of the auto ninjas in the nose with the hilt of his katana, knocking him into a few other ninjas behind him. That ninja had been coming up behind Ino ready to kill her, so he got there first. Akito turned into a blur as he attacked the group of auto nin, working with Gaara's sand, Kankuro's puppets, Tamari's futon jutsus and Shikamaru's shadows. Akito took down the enemy ninja while letting a few through so Ino and Choji could take them down in close combat. Once Akito fell the final enemy ninja, the redhead turned back to the group of Jinan, seeing Gaara hiding a smirk behind his slowly dissolving sand barrier, as the Kazekage knew of his and Akira's appearance changes. "Thank you for your help. Who are you?" Ino bowed her head to the redhead, her cheeks pink. "I am Akito Kazama, my twin brother Akira and myself are allies of Konoha. The invasion is over now, return to the stadium and find your families, friends and senseis. I'm sure the Hokage will have something to say to you all, watch your backs and be careful on your way back." Akito explained. He nodded at Shikamaru, who nodded back before Akito glanced up to see a red blur pausing over him, and Akito suddenly floated up into the air to join the red blur. "So, that went well, huh?" Akira asked as the twins made their way back to the stadium where the surviving Leaf ninjas were now gathering, reuniting and treating injuries. "Much better than last time." Akito nodded as the two took up their usual perch on the roof. "That is the biggest understatement in history." Akira nodded sagely. "Now here comes the backlash," Akito commented as Shikaku, Inoiki and Chozai appeared on the roof behind them. "The Sundaime wishes for us to escort you two to his office to wait for him while he organizes things here," Shikaku said with his arms crossed, as he looked at the twins interested. "Hi." The twins agreed and were silent as Inoiki and Chozai flanked them while Shikaku led the way to the Hokage's office. The strange group made their way into the Hokage's office and the Ino Shikacho guarded the twins, who had sat down on the couch that was pushed off to the side of the room. Akira was wiping down his katana with a bored look on his face while Akito was leaning against Akira's shoulder, eyes shut like he was sleeping. Shikaku took notice of how relaxed the two were around the three of them. It showed immense trust, even more so on Akito's part for actually falling asleep around them. They felt familiar to him, but he could not place the feeling, and he didn't get a chance to get anything out of the two as the doors opened and the Sundaime came in with Jiraiya and the elite Jounin, including the Jounin senseis. Akira elbowed Akito, whose eyes shot open and body tensed before his slitted eyes darted around the room, and he relaxed seeing there was no threat. "I guess you want some explanations, Hokage-sama?" Akira asked, the two not making any move to get off the couch. Akito sighed, knowing this was going to be a real test to see if their story would hold up with every ninja in the room. That's it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on my other social media accounts. Anime God here, and I'm signing off.